Please welcome to the stage the President and CEO of the National Institute of Minority Economic Development, Kevin Price.
Wow, y'all, I was going to say, I'm used to getting theme music when I come up. At least applaud. I know I'm coming after lunch and all, but really. So good afternoon, everyone. So we're now here to talk about maximizing energy opportunities for our community. And I thought maybe one of the ways I would start is sharing a little information about the Institute. And I believe this is a clicker. And so I've got a deck that I'm going to go through real quickly. And then I have some serious experts that I'll call up to banter back and forth while I participate in more like a tennis match of watching them. And then I'll come back up and we'll have a little bit more discussion about what's happening in the space. And so while they're pulling up the PowerPoint, I just wanted to share with you all, how many of you have ever heard of the National Institute of Minority Economic Development? Okay, that makes my heart feel good. For those of you who are not as familiar with the organization, we're now 40 years old, or almost 40 years old, as an organization. We're really here to build the asset base of diverse populations through a lot of the policy work that we do, educating the community, leaders, elected officials, and then providing these economic opportunities for those diverse businesses as well as organizations that are small businesses in the community. You can see there our footprint and how large we are. For many years, we were known as the North Carolina Institute. I changed the name to national because how can we say national when we're in all these states? The states that are not on the map, we're also doing work in Tennessee, South Carolina, Alabama, and Georgia. And so as we get pulled into other communities by corporate partners as well as banking partners, that map is changing, and so is our reach. You can see there that our structure is really 3 nonprofits that play a role in the work that we do. Those 3 nonprofits are providing program work, everything from how to start and scale a business to now they need access to resources. So we have what's called a community development financial institution that provides financial resources in the form of loans as well as grants. During the pandemic, we supported, for the first time in North Carolina's history, a grant program called NC Retool, which was about $20 million that we ended up giving away to support businesses across the state through the pandemic. But we also found that there was one other area we needed to focus in on, and that was affordable housing. Now, where in the world can you go in North Carolina and affordable housing is not an issue? And so that's another area at the bottom there that we are now focusing on by supporting those nonprofits and organizations in the community that are already doing that work. And so one of the programs we have within the Institute is called the Small Business Transportation Resource Center. That organization partners with U.S. Department of Transportation, and you can see the footprint that it covers. Any projects that DOT is working on in those communities, we're there as a nonprofit partner to identify small businesses that can participate in those projects. And because we have a CDFI, if they need financial resources, we can help them with that. So that's what it does. The SBTRC has a whole host of programs that they are running, everything from networking and connecting businesses together to doing business opportunity fairs to connecting them with projects that they can bid on. So there's a lot that they're engaged in. Some of the challenges that I'm seeing in terms of resources is really this constant shift in the environment. In the environment being the business environment, shifting priorities that we're seeing out there, as well as a lack of knowledge of where resources are. So some of what we're going to talk about with the panel is just where some resources may be that they will have access to, as well as misalignment of eligibility requirements, and then just a little bit of underrepresentation of those small businesses that are out there. So that's what I'm seeing. That's part of why the Institute is involved and why we are here to support those small businesses and connect them with these opportunities, particularly in energy and other areas. And so what I'd like to do at this point is call up my panelists. I've got three incredible folks that I'd like to introduce. Steve Kalland is director of the North Carolina Clean Energy Technology Center. Jen Weiss is founder and co-director of NC Clean Energy Fund. And Matt Abele is director of NC Sustainable Energy Association. So would y'all help me welcome them?
All right. Kevin, you should just stay with us.
Well, see, now they're trying to pull me into this banter.
Yeah, come on.
All right, they're going to banter. I'm going to watch this, and as we all will, like a tennis match, and then I'll start firing off questions to them.
Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to our fireside chat. Originally, as you heard, it was Steve and I in a fireside chat. We're now joined by Matt, so thank you. This is very cozy up here. So we're going to banter a little bit, and then we'll have some questions. Yes, it's very warm up here. So Steve.
Yes.
We've heard a lot about North Carolina today, but your organization, the North Carolina Clean Energy Technology Center, is dedicated to helping all 50 states navigate the clean energy landscape. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the ways that you share best practices that you're seeing in other states?
Sure. So I don't know if folks are familiar with it, but the Clean Tech Center's been around for a long time. We're part of the College of Engineering here at NC State. I saw my boss in the room, so I want to make sure I get the plug in. The center really is kind of an odd duck in the university system. We really are chartered in the UNC system as a public service center, and so we've always had this role where we're kind of looking to help move the technology out of the ivory tower and out into the real world so that folks can use it. One of the big things that we've done in the clean energy space over time is created something called the Desire database. Yes, you do have to be a little careful typing this into the internet. Desire stands for the Database of State Incentives for Renewables and Efficiency. And we track basically all of the public policy programs that are designed to help move clean energy out into the marketplace at the federal level, the state level, individual utilities around the country, and even a certain number of community-based incentives. And we make all that information available for free on the web at dsireusa.org. Be very careful, at least if you're in the office. But that said, it's a great place to find out what different states, different utilities, different folks around the country are doing to help incentivize or otherwise help move clean energy technologies out into the marketplace. We do a lot of other work where we work through various programs that we have to provide technical assistance, sometimes to local government officials, sometimes to nonprofit organizations, sometimes to community-based organizations to help them design programs based on the best practices that we see around the country. But our calling card nationally is the database.
Great, thank you. And if you haven't checked it out, definitely check it out. It's got everything you could ever want to know and more. And so Matt, bringing it back down to the North Carolina level, what types of things are you seeing in North Carolina as far as best practices, or what are you seeing in other states that you might be wanting to bring into us? And tell us a little bit about your organization while you're at it.
Sure. Well, as you might be able to tell, I am not Julie Woosley from the State Energy Office. I am Matt Abele from the North Carolina Sustainable Energy Association. Julie couldn't be with us today. She's under the weather. And so the North Carolina Sustainable Energy Association is a 501c3 nonprofit. We're based here in Raleigh, but we cover the entire state of North Carolina. And we have about 200 members that consist of solar developers, rooftop solar installers, universities, nonprofits, and individual ratepayers as well. And we show up and advocate on both the energy provider standpoint from a lot of these independent power producers and on the energy customer standpoint advocate at the Utilities Commission and at the legislature and with state agencies to continue to advance clean energy policy in North Carolina, much of which has led to such significant growth in this space in North Carolina since 2007 with the Renewable Portfolio Standard that passed at that time, North Carolina grew to number 2 in installed solar in the country. We're now at number 5 and have seen more than $59 billion of total economic impact associated with the clean energy economy, and now nearly 110,000 clean energy jobs. And it's not because North Carolina is blessed with any more sunshine than our neighbors to the north or south, but really a result of proactive policy. And that is really a testament to so many organizations, companies, individuals, in partnership with the utilities, in partnership with legislators on both sides of the aisle at the General Assembly, to think proactively about how we can recruit businesses in the state and grow the businesses that we have here to ensure North Carolina retains and maintains affordable electricity rates and does so in an increasingly cleaner fashion. And so North Carolina has really been on the cutting edge of clean energy policy in a way that we've seen a lot of other purple states try to imitate. And you're now starting to see some traction pick up in places like Texas and Florida and Arizona. But we've had a lot of success, and now we're in the next stage of figuring out how do we continue to innovate and bring proactive solutions to the table. And I think to the theme of this panel here, doing so in partnership between public, private, and community organizations. And a really good example of that is what has taken place in Western North Carolina post-Hurricane Helene. We just came out of a breakout panel just a little bit ago in which our partners over at Footprint Project and Land of Sky Regional Council have been doing just such wonderful work in Western North Carolina, helping to deploy microgrids for vulnerable communities who unfortunately didn't have access to power for quite some time after the hurricane had come through that part of the state. And that's a really good example of how public and private entities can come together and innovate. And now with the State Energy Office, who's not represented here at the table today, they've also been really focused on this as well. More recently, just within the past 2 weeks, announced $2.9 million in funding for community resilience hubs across the state of North Carolina. Another really good example of public-private partnerships coming together to really innovate and make sure that North Carolina remains on the leading edge of energy infrastructure.
Yeah. Well, so, Jen, Matt's organization's been around since 1977. We've been around since 1987. Kevin, I know you've been around since the 80s. You're kind of the new kid on the block,
Baby.
right? You want to tell us a little bit about the Clean Energy Fund and maybe help us understand a little bit about what you see as some of the gaps in the funding marketplace that are out there that you guys are trying to fill, and where in the state that need is the greatest?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Yeah, so we are the babies. We were founded in 2020. We're a nonprofit organization. We follow the Green Bank model, for any of you that have heard of that, which means we're trying to fill gaps in the financing marketplace for clean energy projects. And really great question, Steve, about what does that mean, right? We know there's money out there because, as Matt was just talking about, we've done a lot of investment into solar and energy efficiency, resiliency projects throughout the state. But some people are being left behind. If you've been here all day, you've heard some of the other panels. There's a high energy burden here. Affordability is hard for a lot of our households. And so what the Clean Energy Fund is trying to do is leverage a lot of the public funding that we're hearing about today, that we're seeing, and bring in private capital. We want to be bringing in our credit union partners, our CDFI partners, our banking partners, other private investors into the space by offering different types of incentives, credit enhancements, loan loss reserves, things to reduce risk, so that we can bring that money to every single person in the state. And that includes our low-income households, that includes our small businesses, small commercial, that includes our rural farmers, that includes people that are trying to build community centers. Had some great conversations at lunch today about people that are trying to build resiliency hubs for disasters. And so what we're trying to do is just leverage these public dollars that we're seeing coming, or that we have been seeing coming from the federal and state government, and tie those together, blend those with other types of funding so that we can make the credit, the money available to everybody.
Well, and when you say other types of funding, you want to talk a little bit about what some of the different funding opportunities that you see out there look like, and how do you kind of, especially in the level of uncertainty that we've got with the federal funding right now, how do you pull those threads together?
Yeah, so what we look to do is certainly look at the federal funding that's coming through the state, but also look at the local fundings. A lot of local governments have a lot of different funding opportunities that they have. Our utilities, you heard this morning about the Duke Energy programs, but also our rural cooperatives, our municipal utilities have programs as well. How can we blend those all together? And then finally, let's not forget philanthropy. Right now, philanthropy is really trying to figure out what their role is in this space. So how can we bring them in and bundle this all together? One of the themes that I've heard a lot is how can we make this easy? How can we bundle everything? How can we break down the silos? And that's really what we're trying to do together, I think, all of us on the stage. How do we break down these different silos of funding opportunities that are really hard to navigate, especially when you don't do it every day? How can we break down those silos and make it something that's just easy to do? Hit the easy button, and you'll be able to figure out what you qualify for and what types of funding you can bring in.
Well, when you're dealing with all of the easy button solutions that you've got in front of you right now, which I'm guessing is a pretty short list, where do you see us going in the future with this kind of activity? I know that there's several big initiatives that we're both involved in. Matt's organization's got a lot of member companies that are going to be engaged in some of these discussions. How do we continue to move the ball forward given the level of uncertainty we're facing right now?
Yeah, I think it's identifying the opportunities when we see them. So as you just mentioned, and the governor mentioned this morning, we do have a few programs through the Inflation Reduction Act that are still moving. Don't tell anyone. So the Solar for All is a coalition that Steve and I are both a part of, along with the State Energy Office and Advanced Energy, which is bringing money for solar on low-income households, for low-income households, to reduce their energy burden, to reduce their energy bills, and bring those benefits to them. And so we're going to continue to move that forward. And then we're going to work with our state energy partners with the Homes and Here rebates. There's rebates that are available today in a certain number of counties, but they're moving across the state. So how do we combine rebates for appliances and whole house retrofits with the solar, with weatherization assistance programs, with utility programs? So there's money out there. We just need to figure out a creative way to blend them together. And then more importantly, how do we bring the communities to this money? How do we educate the communities about it? One of the things, and I'd love to hear both of your thoughts on this too, is trying to develop a structure where there's energy navigators. Mish, I don't know if you're out there, but Mish Carter from the NC League of Conservation Voters has developed this great skill to sit down at a table with someone and talk to them about what they qualify for. What are the rebates that are available? What are the different types of funding that might be available to them? But she can't be everywhere all at once. So how do we develop a type of structure where we can bring navigators to the table and talk about all of these things that are available? Have you seen anything like that in other states or anywhere else?
Maybe one example that I want to share here with this group that I think has been fairly successful in Eastern North Carolina, and I believe Claire Williamson had talked about this earlier with Roanoke Cooperative, right, is Roanoke has been very proactive in thinking about some of the burden that their member owners experience on a monthly basis with their utility bills. In fact, we at NCSEA have spent a lot of time out in northeastern North Carolina working with many of their member owners, and in which some cases, right, you go out and you talk to these households that are living in mobile homes and are experiencing utility bills that are in excess of $600 a month. And that puts them in a very vulnerable position of having to decide whether they're going to put food on the table, pay for their medicine, or be able to pay for their utility bills. And so we've seen utilities take a really proactive stance in trying to come up with creative solutions and programs to address this energy burden. And with Roanoke Cooperative, one program that they helped to innovate and spearhead was known as Upgrade and Save. And with that program, essentially, you're able to finance the costs of energy efficiency upgrades to the home on your utility bill with a guaranteed net savings of 20% every single month. So while you're adding all of these new improvements to your home, maybe it's a new HVAC system, new insulation, air and duct sealing, you're doing all of that at a net savings every single month. And with programs like that, I think the devil's in the details in making sure that the communities who are in most need are actually aware of the program. Right. And marketing and getting that out into the community is so important. And what we found in working with them on that program is you have to rely on community leaders to be out there and networking and talking to their peers through churches and community organizations, and make sure that the information is coming from a trusted source and ally, that it's not just somebody coming in, knocking on your door and trying to take advantage of you with a program that might actually cost you more money. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for innovation through our utilities in North Carolina, and we've seen now more recently with Duke and their Improve and Save program, which is very similar to Roanoke's program, that is slowly starting to roll out all across the state of North Carolina. And it's a really innovative way to continue to lower utility costs for vulnerable customers. And so I think as we continue to move forward with funding programs like we're talking about here, it's going to be imperative that we're thinking really strategically about how to make sure that the communities who are in most need are getting access to the information and resources to address those needs.
Yeah, and it's one of the fundamental problems that you hear if you talk to people in the world of energy for any length of time is this is the most fragmented mess of activity that you are going to find. I mean, every sector has its own complexity, but the world of energy is about as complicated as it gets. We've got federal stuff, state stuff, local stuff. We've got nonprofits. We've got utilities of different types and flavors and stripes. We've got a whole array of government agencies. We don't even have one government agency. In some states, a state energy office really is more of a quarterback for the process, where the energy office is broader and has a broader mission to touch all of these different things and coordinate them. In our state, just the structure that the energy office lives in is a little bit more restricted. It's really primarily a grant administrator for federal programs that come down. And then we've got a consumer advocates office over in the Utilities Commission, and we've got another consumer advocates office over in the Attorney General's office. And we've got the weatherization program that's in the state DEQ, but it's not exactly in the energy office, but sort of in the energy office. It's coordinated with the energy office. And then the LIHEAP programs over in Health and Human Services, I think. And it goes on and on and on. You can't really have a conversation about energy without involving 27 different people because there's 27 different people that have actually some say on this. So all of that said, Jen, the question that has been presented to me to ask you, what are some ways that we can work together to streamline the process? Because it comes back to what Matt was saying. People need to know that these opportunities are out there, and they need to get that information from some sort of trusted source. Well, it's not that any one of these people are not trusted sources. It's just that all of those 25 or 27 people have a different piece of the puzzle. And so you might present your trusted piece of the puzzle, but the other people don't know how that fits together with any of the other parts. And I'm an energy guy. I've been in this for 30 some odd years. I'm sitting here in North Carolina trying to figure out how to put solar on my own house, and I got to talk to like 20 different people. So people that aren't in this industry, small businesses or others that, energy is not the first thing in their brain, how do they do this? And how do we help them do it?
I don't have all the answers, Steve.
What?
No. So, and we were talking about silos, and you just outlined a lot of the silos that are there. And I think I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. I think we need to be able to break down those silos, streamline applications, not just online, but if we are also offering these in paper or whatever format people need, we need to make it easier for them to recognize what they are eligible for and then easily apply for them. And that includes any federal or state rebates or local rebates. That includes utility rebates. That includes any funding options that might be, or financing options that might be available, whether it's through a CDFI or a credit union or a tariffed on-bill, or maybe it's a leasing program. We have to identify and go to where people are and then recommend the right solutions for them so that they don't have to go to 5 different places to figure it out. One of the things that we're working on through the Energize NC or the Solar for All Coalition is trying to come up with I'm going to call it a one-stop shop, and I really don't like that term, but a one-stop shop. So people can come to one place, learn about all the different programs that are available, find out what they qualify for, and then have a tool to be able to walk them through the process of how to apply for them. So they don't have to take 5 hours out of their day to figure out how to go to apply for each of the different ones. And then the other thing I wanted to mention just quickly, I think is really important, because we also heard this earlier, is to engage the community early. We cannot be coming out with these programs and expect everyone to be following along the whole way. We need to be working with communities as we are developing programs so that they have insight into how it's being developed and can offer their feedback into whether they think it's going to work. We need to be building building the trust with those communities. And to be building trust, we need to be working together to make these successful. So I think we want to make sure that we're educating like at a portal level, but we also want to be educating at the grassroots level and getting into the communities and the leaders.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a question, Jen. So let's say we're successful with all of that, and we start building a lot of momentum, a lot of enrollments in these programs, seeing a lot of the vulnerable communities that we're talking about taking advantage of a lot of these incentives that are in place right now that are being offered as part of the IRA. I think as we know, there are a lot of challenges right now associated with some of those funding streams. But aside from that, let's say we make it through the next year and all of the funding becomes available, there's a likelihood that a lot of those funding streams won't be renewed again. So what is the role of private capital in coming in on the back end to continue these programs moving forward so that after we've built momentum and made sure that communities are starting to take advantage of these types of programs, that we don't leave them high and dry when these federal funding sources no longer exist?
Yeah, good, great question. So I think one of the things that we're doing, and it's the partnerships with other financial institutions, right? So we have this great opportunity in front of us to have these federal funds, but it's not going to last forever. So what we want to do is use those funds to build the solution, the system, and then bring in our other financing partners to the table. Clean energy is new for a lot, right? Yeah, so it's new for a lot of financing institutions. It's new technologies, heat pumps they've never heard of, solar panels maybe they've heard of, but they don't know how to finance them. And so I think we can use the next 4 or 5 years as we have this base of federal funding to educate our financing partners and bring them into the mix. One of the things I love to talk about is that green banks like the Clean Energy Fund can offer what we call credit enhancements, ways to reduce risk for our financing partners so that they want to put a little bit of dip their toe in the water maybe to be a part of the clean energy transition. And the more that they do that and the more that they see that the risk is not greater for these types of loans over what they traditionally do, the more we're going to be able to bring them to the table. And to your point, Matt, continue on in a sustainable way over the long haul. And I'm going to turn it back to you two because I think the other piece to that too is building the workforce, right? So if we're starting to build a workforce around our federal programs, how do we ensure that that workforce is going to continue past the time when we have the funds?
Well, and even more than the workforce. I mean, we've got all kinds of systems that we've been struggling to put in place in various pieces of this puzzle. I think of some of the work that we're doing now around the Energize NC program is focused around consumer protection. We want to make sure that we've got a system out there that's going to make sure that when these funds become available, that the folks that are delivering these systems are doing it in a way that's in the best interest of the potential customers for those systems, and that everybody's got a system that's going to protect those folks that maybe are not, historically in the business of evaluating options for their home or for their small business, and making sure that we're doing that in a responsible way. But the workforce piece, there is a lot of effort at the community college level. There's been a lot of effort to do workforce training in conjunction with the companies themselves through apprenticeship training. And so we're seeing, I think, more sophisticated approaches to growing the workforce in the state. I know that at the higher level, the research level perhaps, NC State and other universities have focused in more on this topic as well. NC State's got a new battery technology development program that they're working to set up. Appalachian State is working with a number of folks around the state to try and identify programs. I know there's a battery program at UNC Charlotte. It's called the Bat Cave. It's my favorite name for a program. There's also a program at UNC Greensboro that's working on the battery technology side. And we've got a bunch of new battery companies that are coming to the state, so we have to get the workforce in place for those folks.
Yes. I would say, honestly, when I talk to
the Bat Cave?
Yes to the Bat Cave.
Yes, okay, just make sure.
So in talking to a lot of our members at NCSCA, one of their biggest challenges and concerns is workforce. I mentioned earlier that we have now close to 109,000, 110,000 full-time clean energy jobs in North Carolina. The clean energy economy right now in this moment is still growing at about twice the pace of the rest of the economy. Now, granted, those numbers were prior to all the tariff stuff that's been going on over the past couple of months. But we're growing really rapidly. And as we've seen since the IRA, North Carolina has had the most amount of economic development investment announcements for clean energy manufacturing of any state in the country. $21.5 billion of announced projects, clean energy manufacturing projects in the state since 2022, with more than 12,000 announced jobs coming with those projects. So we have a lot of new positions that we're going to have to continue to fill moving forward that are going to be manufacturing solar modules, like in eastern North Carolina and Greenville with Boviet Solar, who has now invested $394 million in that part of the state and plans to expand to 1,300 workers. So it's going to be imperative that we're focused on workforce development from the early K-12 all the way up through community college, through our university systems. I give a big shout out. You talked about the Bat Cave. CPCC, Central Piedmont Community College, is one of the only Tesla certified training programs in the country. So Tesla sends a lot of their mechanics over here to CPCC in North Carolina to train them up in the EV space. Wake Tech has been doing some amazing work with EV technician training as well. I know Caroline Sullivan, who spoke a little bit earlier, has been really focused on a lot of this, and I know the previous governor, Governor Cooper, and many folks across agencies here in North Carolina have been very focused on making sure that North Carolina is well equipped for this next phase of manufacturing growth. And I think to some of the remarks Chris made earlier, Chris Chung from EDPNC, that has been one of the reasons why North Carolina has been so attractive to so many of these companies coming into the state, is we have one of the most vibrant, robust university, community college systems in all of the country. And so we want to continue to maintain that leadership so that we can continue to recruit those companies into the state and make sure that we're meeting the priorities of this administration, which is domestic, homegrown manufacturing and relying on energy that's right here in our backyard.
So I don't know about y'all, but have you felt all day like you're drinking from a fire hydrant?
Screw the
Just this
right to the hydrant.
banter back and forth here of, I'm just wondering what the average consumer resident of North Carolina would think about where they go to get resources. How do they start? It almost seems overwhelming. And so to you all's point in the conversation, one of the things that the Infrastructure Advisory Council thought through of a recommendation was, let's take it back down to a more local level, at the county level, and create a weatherization repair council at the county level, so that it is closer to the people, so that they have access from trusted individuals that are local. What do you all think about that idea, and have you seen any examples of that anywhere?
I love that idea. And I think it goes back to what I was saying about kind of if we can standardize the information and we can share it with the trusted members of the communities in the county, I think that is going to go a longer way than us advertising something at the state level. And I think giving the tools, though, and giving them the tools that they can customize to their own needs is going to be really, really important, because the messaging in one county is going to be different than the messaging in another county. And we need to make sure that we are not the ones that are coming up with that messaging, that it is the local leaders that are doing that.
Well, and I might nitpick a little bit that the programs are the same in every county. How you deliver that message in every county is going to differ depending on the audience. And trying to make sure that message appeals to that audience. I know the State Energy Office, Julie isn't here to defend herself, but they've just rolled out a brand new weatherization program over there where I think it's, I can't remember which community college it is that they're working with out in the Winston-Salem direction, but they're going to be working on implementing a new weatherization training program out there, and then doing work with counties around the state. So there is an effort to kind of have the information available that everybody should know, but that information needs to be delivered in a way that is sensitive to the communities that you're working with so that they understand it, and as Matt alluded to, delivered by people that are actually known entities in those communities so that the message doesn't get lost in the shuffle.
Mm-hmm. Matt, anything you wanted to contribute to that?
What they said.
Ditto.
Yep.
So then the thought is, if we can take this down to a local level, then the challenge becomes capacity, having access to resources, and then being able to actually produce at that level. And that could be a barrier. And so one of the things the Institute has been doing, my institute has been doing, is acting more as a fiduciary to smaller nonprofits, smaller grassroots organizations that need that additional support. What do y'all think about that, and what else are you all seeing out there in terms of how we can get resources to local groups?
I think that's how it's going to work, right? Organizations like yours, with the tools that we were just talking about being provided, being able to share that out. Shout out to Mosine Lowe from the Center for Energy Education. I think she does something very similar. So more organizations like both of yours that are able to share that. You know your communities. You know what type of information that they are looking for, and you're able to share it. So it's on us at the state level to make sure that we are providing you with those tools to get out. But I do think that can work really well across the state.
Yeah, and again, if folks are aware of the opportunities, there's organizations like my own center has a array of different programs that are funded by different types of grants where we can provide technical assistance under certain circumstances to certain types of customers, consumers, small businesses. We just got a new USDA REAP program grant to go out and provide technical assistance to small rural businesses and farms to access renewable energy. Just came in the door a couple days ago, so that program is still moving forward. Those kinds of programs are out there, not just at my center, but at my counterpart centers at North Carolina A&T University, the Center for, let me see if I can get it right, CERT, Center for Energy Research and Technology, the App State Energy Center up there. There's a lot of activity down at UNC Charlotte at the EPIC Center. There are activity in the energy space in many of the universities, the extension services, both the industrial expansion solutions. It used to be an energy extension service here, but it's industrial expansion solutions, and then the folks that are involved with co-op extension. There's just a lot of resources out there, and that's just in the university side. There's an array of nonprofit organizations and groups that support small businesses. So we can get the technical information out there to help folks figure out what their opportunity is, and then hopefully you guys can help figure out how to get them some cash to make it happen.
We can do that. So what do y'all think?
I have, what can I do? Sorry. One more. I want to give a shout out because it's been mentioned in a breakout room, but the Energy Funds for All, Mish Carter, are you out there? Energyfundsforall.org is a really good way, if you're not familiar with all of the different types of funding that's out there today. It gives a really good snapshot, especially of the Inflation Reduction Act and bipartisan infrastructure law. So please check out that website if you haven't already.
I would echo all of the resources that Steve and Jen have highlighted, because this space is incredibly technically complicated. And we live, breathe, and eat this stuff every day, but even we often find ourselves very perplexed as to what is going on. And it changes every 6 months, right? Like and now with the political environment we're in, it feels like it's changing every hour. And so it's so important that you have a network of allies, advocates, subject matter experts that you can lean on and share with your network to make sure that you're providing the most up-to-date information as things change on a daily basis.
And I can see
Well, thank you all. Thank you all for this. This has been amazing. Would you all help me thank our panelists?